Hello everybody, and welcome to this week's Tryhard Tuesdays, where we learn to try a little bit harder. I am your host, the Grand Wazoo, and sitting here with me is, of course, my co-host, the Grandmaster Flubb. How's it going, Flubb?
Pretty good, Wazoo. Thanks.
I got good feedback on that one, so that's your title, as long as it keeps on bringing in those sweet, sweet listens. And joining us, of course, is who we said last week would be with us, and that's a friend from older times, and that is AG. How's it going, AG?
It's going pretty good. Everything's all right. Had a great week of Dota, so pretty excited.
Really, that makes one of us. Well, maybe two of us out of the three of us. How was your week, Flubb?
Mine's actually pretty good. My team has actually been doing pretty well in the past week. I've been doing mediocre, but my team's been doing well, so that's what's important. Fantastic.
We are going to get into that a little bit later on, I think, during the introduction. I kind of wanted to talk about what's going on in Dota right now. We've had the Summit wrapping up, the Summit 5, where some of the bigger teams didn't play, which is interesting and, you know, not at all surprising in a lot of ways with millions of dollars on the line. Some teams just didn't feel like they wanted to reveal, I guess, or it just wasn't worth the payoff. What do you guys think about that necessarily with some teams not showing up? And I'll start with you, AG, since you're our guest. Guest first.
Well, I guess if in hindsight, obviously hindsight's 2020, but it's actually not too surprising for a team that's like hungry, I think, to win a tournament like that. Like Wings, I feel like being relatively newer to the scene, or at least I think they're newer to the like being considered one of the upper echelon teams. Going up against like OG, being that, you know, they've had a pretty successful year and looking to like cap it with a TI. I'm not too surprised, and I think like definitely looking at like Liquid and OG specifically, they had a lot of like, if it wasn't a clowny strat to begin with, they had like, I don't know, it just seemed like in a lot of games they didn't play or execute nearly as well as maybe they're capable of.
Do you feel like they're at a detriment for having played OG and Liquid with their invites?
No, I think personally, I think it's always good to get practice regardless. So like, I know that OG coming off of Frankfurt took like a bit of a break, and then a lot of people kind of wrote them off, especially like they didn't have as stellar of a Shanghai performance. But you know, there's always like that rest or rhythm or whatever the saying is in sports. And personally, like I think that having rhythm is better. Obviously, like you don't want to be playing like every single LAN possible, but especially for I think some of the Western teams, like I think the Summit's a chill. It has like a super chill atmosphere to it. I know like a lot of the players find it to be like one of the more fun, relaxing events. And obviously it's not as stressful as like going overseas for them. So I think for like a Western team, it totally makes sense to play in it.
Yeah, and yet for it being such a casual tournament, it can build those profiles and I don't know, I guess storylines of those teams up so well. I mean, you saw it with Wings and stuff. I mean, they're instantly more recognizable from that tournament.
Yeah.
So
it's a perfect tournament, I think, for Wings, because it's a team, like I said, that's like most Dota fans might like have heard the name Wings, but it's really only like the hardcore fans. Especially like Wings has done tremendous on the Eastern scene, like within like local events, but they've had like some success at more international type events, but international being like the collection of teams at different lands. But like it's a perfect type of tournament for them to introduce them to like a lot of Western fans. I would not be surprised if they picked up a ton of following going into the international, which will be interesting to see, like if they get like a huge bandwagon support off of the Summit.
And that's fantastic for them. Flubb, what do you think? Did you watch it? I know you didn't watch much, but
I did actually watch quite a few little things here and there. I've been kind of looking up on it over. I just did a little bit of research, and I was watching these games, and I kind of actually got a different perspective on it. One thing that I kind of feel like really helped them is actually that they got to play versus OG. Really gives them a rhythm versus them. If you look back at different TIs, a lot of times there's certain groups that like you'll have, okay, like I think TI1 I think it's even said in Free to Play, the movie that they made about the original tournament, that they call, I think it was what was it? Nirvana International, I believe was the one, but they called them like the Chinese killers, because they like basically would go, and it was Fear's team, and they would go around, and every time they faced a Chinese team, they would just handily win every single time. Now, obviously, Wings is a Chinese primarily team, right? And they have the I think that now that they have this play versus OG, which some people would say is maybe the best team right now, and they had this going into a tournament that really didn't matter as much, but they still have a rhythm versus them if they do face them into TI, and they won the first time. They 2-0'd them, which is something to be said. Even if you're holding back strategies, even if you're holding back ideas, like, that means something that you beat them 2-0. And then they come back again in the finals. Spoiler alert, sorry about that.
If you haven't, there are going to be spoilers here. I mean, we're discussing it. If you haven't seen it, I mean, turn it off, I guess, a while ago. But I know exactly what you're saying. I've been weighing that in my head if I would play. I mean, you see the teams that, and AG uses this term, and I think it's super applicable here, and that's the hunger, you know? Even OG still wants to build that brand and build that profile. They want to be a household name like Navi is in Europe for esports. They are trying to build that. Secret, right. You know, I mean, they did the same thing a couple years ago as they were trying to build their profile. They played in everything. And now maybe they don't have to. They have the money. They have that established. And EG don't have to. I mean, they have that establishment. So I don't know. I guess if it's a good thing in ways, in other ways it's not. And I like both of your points, honestly. Flubb, do you want to wrap up what you were saying?
Yeah, I feel like that when you play in these tournaments, I've always been a proponent of the idea that the mindset that someone has going into a tournament greatly changes their outcome of the tournament. One of the things that, I mean, you win this tournament, yeah, it doesn't mean a whole lot, but it means something right before the tournament because it gets eyes on you, you start feeling more confident about yourself, and you, as long as you don't reveal too much of your strategy, like if you go all whole hog and reveal everything, then yeah, you're going to lose super fast. But I don't feel like Wings did that. I feel like that they kept something back. I think that they used Drow Strat, and they've used that to a good degree in the past few months, but they haven't really revealed anything too crazy. You know, they've depended on certain strategies, but it's nothing predictable. And that's one of the things that's, I feel, really important, especially when you're going into TI, but in Dota in general. You never want your team to be predictable. You never want a draft to be predictable, and I don't feel like they are.
Yeah, and I feel like kind of teams like Virtus Pro and whatnot, and their collapse and them not playing together anymore has kind of made room for these other teams to fill that position and kind of take a swing at the upper echelon. And I feel like Wings has done that over the past year. They've worked their asses off, frankly. They've placed well, kept in the public eye. You know, they've just worked really hard. And so, you know, there you go. It's going to be really interesting to see if them playing will be to their benefit or their detriment when it comes to, you know, the big daddy of tournaments, the International coming up. And speaking of that, we are all going to be there. We are looking for some type of establishment right now to be able to record in, and we'll probably be doing a lot of live content coming out of there. Well, I know me and Flubb will, because Flubb will be there and AG will be there. Oh, yeah. So, hell, we might even continue the team building thing. We'll see, because that's the topic of the show today, of course. But let's circle back and talk about our games, because you guys said you were having a good week in Dota, and I've been having a pretty bad week. So maybe your tales of triumph will help me pull me out of the gutter and get my head back in the game. AG, let's start with you, man. I haven't heard from you in a while.
Yeah, I've been, so kind of to fill maybe the audience in a little bit, I'm not sure if we've discussed, like, the last time I came on the show, I think I was still playing, like, position 4 for our team.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And so since that time, like, that 82L season finished, and we had some, like, roster changes, and so now I'm playing the 3 position off lane, which I think like going into it, I generally look at offlane as like relatively boring because I typically like to like have farm of being like a natural position 1 player. So like the offlane is one of my least favorite roles to be in because it's like it usually think of the offlane as like the place where you go where you don't want to lose too hard, but like you're disadvantaged. But I don't know. I really like the offlane this meta, which might be like an interesting statement since the offlane, as so many people said, like at the summit, like Moo and Moon Meander and stuff. Like the offlane is basically grab Iron Talon and then
Yeah.
go to jungle. So I don't know. Like, but one year I've been having like a lot of success on recently that I've been trying to play a lot more of is Axe, and man, does he dominates like melee carries like no other.
He's very good. He's back in. I'm sure we'll see a lot of him, right? I mean, he's very good.
Yeah, I mean, like, he's a hero that like people have run in, like teams have picked him and run him in different ways. I just like him because he adds like he has a ability to be like aggressive early on the map, and that's generally like I like offlaners that you know, like I like Tide is an offlaner, like I play a lot, and Faceless Void's an offlaner I play a lot, but it's like you're fighting around those like 1 to 2 minute ultimates, whereas like Axe is always poised to be a threat. Like you're not necessarily fighting around some ultimate timing. So I like that because it gives you more options and it doesn't make you feel like you're on a clock per se.
Yeah,
But,
he's just super noisy too. If you need to make space for somebody, he's just crazy noise.
Yeah, and he demands a ton of attention. Like if you have most melee carries, like at least in my experiences in the bracket that I've been playing in, if you send just like one support against the Axe offlane with your melee carry, like it's either I'm like taking that tower by like backdooring your wave, or you're sending it like the position 4 of the opposing team up to that lane. So I feel like he demands a lot of attention, and worst comes to worst, like you just go into the jungle, and he doesn't even necessarily need an Iron Talon to jungle extremely efficiently, especially if you have teammates stacking for you. It's pretty good.
So that's been effective for you being a filthy axe picker, huh?
Listen, there's no such thing as a filthy axe picker.
Okay, phrasing it like that, it shows I have a little bit of a bias. Flubb, what are you running with these days, my man? How's your week in Dota been?
Well, generally when I play by myself, I've been having some success here and there, but it's been bad and low. I mean, you can't really ever. It's dependable on the people that you play with in solo, so you know that stuff happens. But with my team, I've actually been playing pretty well lately. We've been having a lot of really good communication, and that's something that's actually super important for teams, is having good communication. And I can't stress on that enough. And I'll talk more about that later. But I feel like that I've like we've been playing for about 6 months now together, so it's been a while, and you start to feel each other out. But we kind of were lost on who should be the captain for a while. Originally, it was Proud, the one of the co-hosts of Theorycraft.
Yeah, Roland was in here earlier, like, what show is this we're recording? Theorycraft Tuesday? It's like, no, wrong show. But yeah, we get confused all the time as well. But yeah, Proud is a host on Theorycraft Thursdays.
And he was great. He was a really good captain. But the thing is he played the carry role, and it's very hard, in my opinion, to really shot call and have a draft that you can kind of mold around the game, because the game is ever changing. So it's really hard from that position to change something at a split second and tell people to go down a different path when you're focusing on those last hits and not getting ganked. It's way more stressful than on a support when you're like trying to stop people from getting ganked. I don't know. Each person their own.
It's kind of like we've had a very similar problem on our team. We did for the first little bit with me, AG, and Grouty, because it felt like several people were calling the game at once at times, and it feels like you could get contradictory information, or even if you're getting the same information from multiple sources at once, it can be overwhelming in the moment. Yep. And it's hard to be that person in the one slot, or even the off lane slot or the mid, calling the game, because you're more focused on the minutia. You know, you're more focused on the micro management of killing creeps and stuff than you're focused on the macro, like a 4 or 5 position.
Yeah, I think the offlane's the hardest in my experience. Like because no, hear me out. Hold on, I have like this is a solid point. So like last season I played 4 and I did a lot of the shot calling for our team. Like Rowdy would draft and I would do a lot of the in-game calls. But like once we started this new season, I transitioned to the offlane. We never really officially addressed who would be shot calling, so I just continued shot calling in our game. I think that's what we were going off of. And
pretty much, yeah.
At least like okay, so position 1, yeah, it I'm not gonna say it's easy to shot call, but like you're hitting creeps. Like generally speaking, especially in this meta, like the offlaner is not like fucking around with you unless like I don't know, you have some weird circumstance, like it's I don't know, like a timber or like a really good aggressive tide. So like for the most part, you're generally alone and you're last hitting. So like the mid as the shot caller would be pretty difficult because he's in a solo lane. But a lot of times like the attention, it's funny like this progression of Dota since I've been playing it since my days of like Heroes of New Earth. But it used to be, and I know you played Heroes of New Earth, Flubb, and you mentioned this last week. But like Heroes of New Earth was like you get 6 on the mid and then you go gank somewhere. You put a pressure on a lane. But Dota like right now in so many of the games, it's more the mid doesn't necessarily leave. He's more of like a farming mid or really any sort of mid, and then supports roam and gank the lanes and potentially even gank mid. And so it's less so about like the mid just roaming to a new lane. So a lot of times like the action's going on mid, and so the shot calling mid could make some sense because that's a pretty big emphasis of the early part of the game.
It's just hard to be in that mid position and call for the missing that might have slipped out and ganked you. You know, like which a support might have seen.
For the off lane, like you have to worry about not dying. You still got to get some farm. Like I don't know. I think shot calling in the off lane is really hard in the first 15 minutes. I'll just leave it at that.
I'm sure there's different parts of the game where it's more difficult depending upon the position, but I mean, I think there's a reason for the most part you see these shot calling roles going to the 4 slot in, you know, Secret's case with Puppy, or you know, the 5 slot with PPD. It's because they are getting the vision up and they have their eyes on the minimap constantly. You know, they don't have to deal with the other
and they're
so
like the first 10 to 15 minutes of the game, this is just my opinion, but like the position 4 especially has so much control on the flow of the game. Like so much control. They basically, and you could say that the support duo, if it's like also a mobile 5, like that support duo is controlling the tempo of your team. Either they're putting, like as Roland likes to say, they're putting out fires in a lane somewhere, or they're going aggressive and they're hunting down that alchemist or invoker or tinker mid or whatever, what have you.
Well, this seems like a pretty good conversation to transition into like the meat of our show, and that's our team building, kind of a general discussion. We'll be starting this series again and going over things, engaging with the audience. You guys can reach us on Twitter at @p_show or at any of our Twitters that we'll hand out at the end. So let's discuss this from a team building point of view. Just the whole position of calling shots. Flubb, you say you do that on your team?
Yeah, I actually I play 4th role on my team, and whenever I play, I now do the shot calling and I do the drafting, and I think it's better to have it as a 4 than you can have it as a 5 as well. But I actually agree with what AG was saying before. I think offlane is actually the hardest place to call from because you are not focused on any other lane pretty much, unless you hear like oh crap, then you're teleporting to that lane probably because it's the carry. But even then, you don't even necessarily do that. You're probably going to push down that lane with certain heroes. So I feel like one of the most important things to always have in a team, especially when you're starting to build up, is that maybe the support should be able to direct the game and shot call, because Dota is all about snowball. Like, yes, there's snowball drafts, but the whole game as a whole, you grow on the success that you have from the beginning. In any format, it doesn't matter. So if you're doing that, then why not have the person who is the most important in the very beginning be the one who is in charge of directing the game and the flow of how everything works?
Yeah, it takes some kind of trust to get to that point where you can listen to somebody telling you what to do, though, right? I mean, You're 6 months along with your team. We're less than that, you know, by several months. How do you build that type of communication fibrosity that might make you, you know, listen better, drop your pride? How do you build that trust among a team?
Well, it's mostly it's having a situation that it's playing it out as much as you can, and when you play with people, generally there's different ways that you can have trust and have respect other people's opinion. But when you really look at how the game goes and how you look at the game yourself, you have to have the respect already there to start a team. You can't just have, unless you have like a friend that you respect and then they bring in friends that they have. There's also that possibility. But whenever you're building a team, don't ever, like, you can have like practices in the beginning and just feel each other out and see if you work together. But if you don't respect another person, or if you think that they're wrong like 9 times out of 10 and you're not mentioning it and you're just letting that fester, that team's never going to work, ever. I've been a part of teams that have done that in the past. I've been someone who's done that in the past whenever I first started. And it's cancerous to the team, just like it's cancerous in anywhere, in any relationship ever. Because that's what you're forming. You're forming your relationships, whether they're friends or whether they're teammates, coworkers, however you see them. These people are going to be important, and you need to be able to have a good communication within the team that'll make that work. Generally, it goes to these positions, and that's why I just say for those positions, because it makes the most sense. But it really comes down at the end of the day to whoever has the leadership role and whoever can really fill that that void that happens in any situation in life. Dota is no different.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's kind of a chemical X, you know, like people can step up and try to take the reins, but if you decide upon that and you're not ready to step up and actually like take the calls and take the responsibility and I guess in this case play a position that you can call from, then those talents are wasted, you know what I mean, if you can't do it all at once. And it's interesting because you'll see some people that are just perfect support players or whatever, and they're very good, but they can't make a call, you know what I mean? Like they're too reliant on what other people think at certain times to be able to make a call. You know what I mean? And I don't mean that like a knock on anyone I play with, really. It's just that maybe they don't have the time with the game, maybe they don't have the confidence to make calls for an entire team or whatever, and it does take a certain amount of confidence, or maybe they just never think they're wrong and so people don't follow them. You know what I mean? There's plenty of archetypes in terms of I guess pitfalls and mistakes you can make to kind of clutter up your line of communication and not feel like you have that open line anymore on a team.
Oh, most definitely. And certain, it's actually really funny, certain positions have certain personality types. I know that you guys have experienced this, and I know all of our listeners have probably experienced this, but there's like 3 stereotypes for like each position, it seems like. And now you don't necessarily fit into stereotypes. Not all stereotypes are true or anything like that. But like when you actually go in there are certain personality types that seem to attract, you know, a carry position, a mid. There's every single type of person under the rainbow. But like it doesn't matter. The position, I feel like a lot of times I'll see a lot of supports, like you said, they care so much about another person's opinion that sometimes they're afraid to speak up, and they don't want to like upset the balance flow, because they take the support position to begin with because they don't want to have a problem, and instead of like having people argue about who's going to play support, they'll just play support.
They've just kind of, I'll do it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying it's an interesting contradiction within the role itself, because it's like, here I'm going to be super low farm, be everyone's doormat, and at the same time like I'm calling the game. And it's one of those interesting, I don't know, it's just an interesting contradiction in like that role that shows me how much depth is in this game. It's just interesting, you know?
Yeah, it's crazy when you start talking about like the social aspect of Dota and like how important it is, and you don't really realize it until you're in it, and then you're like, whoa, this is really important.
It's
And
its own little microcosm of just all sorts of communication and customs. You know, it's interesting because I know we'll be at the International in a couple weeks, and I'm getting these memories back. But we also went last year, and they had this trading ground open for all these all these plushies and stuff, and it was like the Dota 2 market. Everyone was out there trading and stuff, and I was like, this is so interesting because it's like a physical representation of like people enjoying Dota. You know what I mean? And like it's such a culture by this point, right? And like sure, like different positions have different personalities, but you can't say if that's like a cultural dispersion from like Twitch watching our TZ play or whatever, and so I'm gonna act like him mid and like all this other stuff. You know what I mean? Like it's like it all kind of is just a culture that's just really interesting. Even still, you know, after playing the game for years. But let's keep on with this kind of communication talk because it's interesting to me. AG, what do you think? I mean, you've called our practices thus far from the offlane pretty effectively. I mean, we've had some good moments and we've had bad. What do you feel about just the whole communication aspect from that position?
Yeah, I mean, so like technically speaking, I mentioned that it's like really hard to do it in the first 15 minutes of the game, but like once the game gets flowing, I do think, I actually a lot of times with the offlaner, your initiation is usually your offlaner. Sometimes it's your mid, and then in like some strange scenarios it can be another role. But 9 times out of 10 it feels like it's your offlaner. So I like being the shot caller like past the 15-minute mark. Like usually I'm playing a hero that's gonna grab a blink dagger and is gonna be the like
and then you can be jump. You know, you can tell the whole team to jump in with you, and it's a little easier. Yeah. Exactly,
and I think like especially as that type of a role. So talking in the role of initiation, not necessarily an offlaner, but that type of role of initiation, like one of my strengths I feel like is being able to like look at team fights, assess whether or not it's going to be an advantaged team fight or a disadvantaged team fight, and then also like knowing when to trigger to start that team fight. So like all of those elements are like extremely important to shot calling, right? So like obviously any role could have that, but I just feel like it kind of goes hand in hand with the person who's the initiator. And like we've had some like concrete examples of that where like we've maybe like are turning, we have a fight that looks like it's disadvantaged, and then just a simple change of positioning or whatever that we orchestrate, and then it's like we turn the tide, or we'll make like a call like to get back, and then we realize that we actually have the advantage because now we have like a positional advantage, and etc. So
and you just need someone saying that sometimes, right? You just need someone to step up and say, "This is happening now, and if we do this, there'll be a payoff." What was your thought? You were gonna say something.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say it's like it's one of those things that this is probably like a super obvious point, but it's like one of those things that. I sometimes have trouble where I see that opening and I don't necessarily communicate it, and I just like I expect that everyone has like sees the game as I do. So like everyone, if I'm in a position where it's like a 2v2 or a 2v3, but I know that like my set of skills along with whoever's next to me, if we throw them out in a certain order, like the team fight would be, or that little skirmish would be successful. So it's like one of those things that like just open communication is always important. And I do think you kind of hit this challenge though, where it's like, is the shot caller the one that's going to like tell your team not to overlap stuns or things like that? I mean, a lot of that will become like intuitive, and as your team plays together, especially on certain heroes, like they'll figure that out, like, oh, once our position 4 or 5 Lion has a blink dagger, like he always blinks in and leads, but until then, like I'm gonna lead with my stun or lockdown or whatever. So it's kind of like I haven't really figured out whether or not it's perfect to have the shot caller calling every small little thing, or if it's better to have like small communication across the board where it's like the shot caller determines when the fight's going to happen, but then it's up to like the individuals within that fight to be talking. And then you run into the problem is that too much chatter, etc. It's complicated. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts about that.
Oh yeah, I actually wanted to to talk about this. I shot call, quote unquote. But the thing is like we kind of have designed our team personally, and there's been teams in the past that I've done it differently. But personally, for this team and how it's worked for us is having people shot call at different times. So I'll shot call in the beginning stages. Then we move over to our offlaner usually for like when we're starting team fights, or like if there's like a certain time that we feel like we can like turn on a fight, it'll be me or him kind of like calling that situation. And as the late game kind of starts to roll around and we know like, okay, this is an important item, this is important stuff, like I will kind of go back to our mid player and our carry, Proud and Vafa, and they will actually kind of direct the team fights from there. It's a cohesive like flow, and it's when you have something set up like that, it takes a long time to get used to it, because just like you were talking about with stuns, stacking stuns and figuring out when people like to wait for others, if there's an impatient player, if there's someone who's like a little too patient and trying to like time it just perfectly, and you'll eventually figure that out. But in the same way of communication, if you guys keep talking and you keep letting it flow, sometimes I feel like there's something that comes out of the chaos, and if you can truly find that, then that's perfect. But it's kind of hard, and a lot of times people don't want to wait for that because it can create chaos. It can create just a bunch of people chattering about not necessarily what needs to happen. And if you have someone who quote unquote shot calls, or someone like, if they say something with a certain tone, then you have to do it. Then that kind of pulls people out of that situation, and you can kind of regulate that. Kind of like how you would have someone regulate a conversation. You can have someone regulate the conversations over everyone in Dota, and that's kind of what the shot caller does in our team, at least.
Yeah, and I think that we've kind of gone to this example in the past, but like I remember listening to when Veggies was, I think it was the Manila Major that they were qualifying for. I don't think it was actually the international, but so it was a little while back. But that team that they had organized, Blitz was playing mid, and I remember like one of the games that I watched in the open qualifier that they were playing in, they got to a point, so like Blitz would generally call out all the movements of the game. He would call out like general smoke timings, he would call out like item progression, he would ask like people on the team, like specifically the core and maybe the offlaner, like when specific items were hitting. So he was kind of like keeping a general blueprint of the game in front of him and then communicating that to his team. But like small skirmishes, so they had Purge was playing the 5 and they had Capitalist playing the 4. They had like a situation in the game that they ultimately lost. They were going up against an Ember Spirit who had like a Lincoln's, and of course, like being the most annoying thing to gank in the world, he was keeping a Remnant like back at the well or in a safe position and just like going out aggressively into a lane. But with that Lincoln's, he knew he was safe, and Purge was playing like a Lion or something. But he knew like, okay, I need somebody to like break the Lincolns. So it wasn't like Blitz being the shot caller was not calling out every time they tried to gank the Ember. It was, you know, coordination of Purge and whoever else was ganking with him. And I think that's kind of maybe the point that we're getting to, is it's the shot caller calls like the general concepts and sort of directs the team. You know, just like a captain of the ship would direct where the ship's going, but obviously like the rest of the crew on the ship are interacting and talking about their small tasks that keep that ship.
It's your job to row the fucker, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
You show up for your job, and there's an assumed level of, I guess, competence, and that level of competence at times, it can be the cause of a lot of fights. I feel like, because you expect someone to be able to see the game as you do with the kind of hours you put in, and then when they don't, or they mess up those simple tasks that they should be able to accomplish, it's really frustrating. You know, so much of Dota, it's like you can play thousands of hours and still mess up the most menial things, you know what I mean? And that's something that it's like, God, why? I do that all the time, you know, and like sometimes I'll like forget to listen and stuff, and like all these like human errors, and you say, what? Forget to listen? What the hell are you talking about? And that's like, I'll have like 3 people talking into my ear, and I'll come out of my farm mode, and they'll be like, get out of there, man, get out of there, and I'm like, huh? And then just get like 2 hit by somebody, you know, like that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's like little things like
just human error, man.
Yeah, it's like if you are playing on a hero that you know can like rage TP or spin TP, but then you forget that there's a Beastmaster on the other team.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Oh, that's not gonna work. Yeah, it's like small things like that, and I think like a good point to bring up was like we've had like bits of friction in the past, like especially, and I don't know what the dynamic exactly is with Team Ham for you, Flubb, but like I don't know, we have some like quiet individuals I think on our team, and certainly during the game, like you air that frustration, and I think that's like completely like not valuable. Like you can just do it at the end of the game and mention like, hey man, like why'd you forget to spend TP there or something. But I do like, I'm a fan of, and maybe this is just like my style, I'm a fan of like peer feedback. Like and that's not to say that I am generally a person that likes to like get in debates and gets argumentative at times, but like I learn things by just talking shit out with people.
Yeah, a lot of people are that way. Sorry, Flubb, I'll let you finish, but I just want to make one point, and that's I did a lot of acting early on in life, and one thing that they never did was if you were screwing something up, they'd never walk up and like tell you during that show. You know what I mean? Like it's better to keep dancing with pie on your face than it is to stop dancing. You know what I mean? Like, and I kind of feel that way with Dota in general, and I kind of feel that way about communication. Like, and you've kind of hit on that point really accurately, but I feel like it's more efficient to make the same choice and not have that question. You know what I mean? It's better to make a mistake as a team than make well, I guess it's better to make a good thing happen too, but it's better to make all the same mistake than it is for everyone to do different things. You know what I mean? And I think you said that in one of our team practices. So I just wanted to add that in, and I will let you finish, Flubb.
Oh, no, you're good. That's essentially what I was going to say. I was going to say that, well, one of the things I was going to bring up was that when you look at a problem and you say it immediately and you're like, oh, that shouldn't have been done, you're just going to put people on tilt. I mean, that is the definition of flaming. You're starting to fan the flames and create a situation that the person, one, is already like, your adrenaline's going. I don't care who you are. When you play Dota, your adrenaline should be probably going right now. And if you have that adrenaline going, you're in that like intense situation, and someone kind of attacks you, you're going to react badly to it. And if you have your team attacking each other, you're not going to get anything done. So that's a really good point that both of you guys made, is that you should just let stuff go until the end. And you should always
be
bring
brought up. Yeah, sorry, I was just going to say what you were just going to say. So, sorry.
Yeah, that's all good. It should always be brought up, but it should always be brought up in like a good way.
Sterile environment too, like not on the battlefield. I feel like so much of Dota is, and I know this from starting a podcast with my brother Roland, where he wouldn't buy boots on profit and like stupid shit like that for months and months and months. And he just did it because people would just be like, do that, that's so dumb, and he'd just be like, well, I'm not going to do it. You know, it's very immature and like reciting it now because it's like, it's very rebellious, right? But I don't know. There's something there. I mean, we all have our human, like all of us react to getting yelled at differently. Some people played sports growing up and they were used to someone in their face screaming at them when they missed a goal or something. And some people just aren't okay with that. They've learned in more sterile environments. And when someone starts yelling, they just immediately tune them out. And like, it's about finding that middle ground, right? Where you can convey the urgency of the situation, but at the same time, not be a dick. Or come off as one, because sometimes you're not even being a dick, but because of those adrenaline-filled moments, you might come off as one, right, to somebody, and you never know why.
Yeah,
right.
I've kind of thought about this a lot, like, lately. I think it's always about when. I know, like, a lot of people are like, you gotta think about how you're tailoring the message. Like, to me, that's, like, total bullshit, because you could literally say it in the nicest way. You could be like, hey, man, like, why didn't you just leave the lane, you know? There's free farm in the other lane where it's much safer. like no matter how you say it, you're either going to do like one of two things. Like you're going to tilt the person, which is probably the most common thing.
Make them feel
But even the
patronized. Yeah.
But even the people that don't get tilted, all you're going to do is ruin their confidence. Like you're you're just gonna wreck their confidence. Like Chaos is like the nicest guy in the world, so I'm sure like I've hardly ever seen him tilted, but like one thing that might affect him, you know, like he might not feel the flame and then get tilted from it, but maybe his confidence gets shaken, you know. So like I feel like there's always a negative side effect to that. So it's more the when than anything else. Doesn't matter what the message is, it's the when. And yeah. I don't know, like that's definitely like one of talking like personally from a shot caller perspective or someone who like plays Dota, that I have like the hardest time with that, of like not wanting to immediately point out when someone's doing something that's, and I mean like I can honestly say that it's not, I don't want to like put the person down, I just want to be like, don't do that.
You just want to correct the problem. But
right,
when a problem's been made and it can't be corrected, or, you know, a mistake's been made and it can't be corrected, I've noticed some people kind of use it as a, I don't know, like a bargaining block to, like, be like, listen to me, or I'm better than you because you did this, you know, like, and this is pub play for the most part, not team play, but some people just feel very vulnerable in making mistakes. And so when you point that out in the game, they're maybe not going to have as good of reaction time, or they're not going to be as focused on their build or what they need to be warding or whatever. So it is good. I think Flubb said to have that sterile environment afterwards to discuss those mistakes, because then you can be like, yeah, man, we won, we lost, whatever. You know, it's over. Now let's discuss how we can improve. But Flubb, haven't heard from you in a while. What do you think about this? How do you maintain that like level of, I don't know, not really good communication, but that level of being able to talk about and correct mistakes in the game without coming off as a, you know, flaming prick, I guess?
Well, luckily when you have some teammates, and eventually you'll find some teammates who generally will be looking for faults that they make themselves. I think it's important when people don't see the fault that you bring it up, but if you ever hear someone say, oh, I screwed that up, or oh shit, I was out of position, or something like that, don't say anything. Like, they know that it's bad. If anything, you should say, hey man, it's all right, we'll get them next time, we'll do something different, or anything
offer a
reassuring.
Positive solution to the problem rather than
exactly, like it offers something else. Because if you, I mean, everything is in mind state, and I mean, I know I'm talking a lot about like trying to make people feel better and like being like psychotherapist here, like this entire episode, but like it's kind of how I win games, actually. Like, there's people who talk to me and they're like, man, like you got to stop it, because like your upbeatness is making me ridiculous. But it's like, sometimes that's what needs to be said in these matches, because you need to stay positive to win games. And if you have the ability to do that, if you have the ability to change someone's mind, be like, okay, we'll get them the next time, that means they're probably going to actually do well the next time, and you're gonna get that gank, and you're gonna have that turnaround where that's all that it's about in Dota, is having that turnaround moment. And once you get that moment, then it's much easier from that point. So I feel like whenever people are in the situation of like, you see someone mess up, if they do say it, don't mention it. But like, try to make them feel better about it. If they don't mention it and they're like, I don't know what happened, then kind of chime in and be like, well, man, I think that you need to stand a little bit further back, especially if you're like in a captain position. You have to tell people what needs to be done in certain situations. I'll tell people, hey, wait for your silence, I'll call for it. Or I'll say, okay, at this point I want Lion to stun first. He's going to be the initiator. It's kind of up to the captain, and when you're playing in 5 stacks, it's not as clear cut, and it's kind of harder to direct that because you don't really have a captain. But when you're in this team experience, you're not only the captain for telling people what the plan is, but you should be there as a person giving them confidence and giving them the support that they need to to do well in the game and
so
to do well.
that's why it says a 5 or a 4, because you weren't a babysitter before. Now you're a mega babysitter.
I was gonna say this is why Flubb has like 1K MMR on us. It's because he has the voice of Snuggles from the fucking fabric softener commercial.
Oh man,
I'd follow you and I battle like just giant assholes.
Dude, you could lead me. You could lead me to like we could go get airdropped and fight ISIS right now. I'd do it. You'd be like, it's fine. Just take this 9mm. It's fine. We'll make it out. I'd be like, all right, man. Like I've never shot a gun, but all right, we can do it. But anyway, that's really fascinating stuff, guys, and that is a segment we're going to continue on. Flubb has a lot of experience in this from Han on, as does AG, and I'm here along as the conduit to kind of get these cool stories and thoughts out of these guys. So definitely tweet in any type of questions you have, anything you think would be cool for a segment for the team building stuff. AG will be joining us throughout. Do you guys have anything else to add before we move on?
No, I'm pretty good.
I feel like that was pretty. You did a good job of pinning down that those fleeting details of kind of a team coming together.
I have to go to like a Buddhist retreat or something.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like
for the next month,
you got to be solving all my problems. Like I'm gonna be talking to you about my childhood and stuff. And I'll be laying on a couch like on Steam VR. Like
I'm gonna like burn some incense the next time I play Dota.
Okay. Well, we will be working and growing our teams as hopefully you're growing yours at home. So please continue on with us there. We'll be continuing every couple weeks and interspersing other content that's relevant to the tournament season between. So that is fantastic. Thanks for joining us for that, AG, and thanks, Flubb, for adding your insights. And we are going to talk about our item of the day. We're not going to give up on that just yet, and we have decided, and I think this was made without AG on the line, so it's going to be a mystery item for him, just like it is for all of you, and it's the mango. We are discussing the mango tonight because it's something that I've been building more and more, not really building, but just like starting with a ton. I mean, I feel like almost all my melee carries I start with one. I love starting with one on Jug and Sven, and I feel like it's an item that is just, I don't know, the game needed it for so long. It's fantastic that it now has it. So AG, let's start with you. You just got surprised. Let's get some real content out there. What do you think of the mango?
In the beginning, like everybody, I pretty much never bought it, and then like a few weeks later, I saw like pros doing it, and I was like, huh, I'll give this thing a try. And like in hindsight, it's so logical, right? Like how many times before the mango were you playing like you said Sven or somebody like that, where it's like someone gets away with like 50 HP, and it's because you're not in range to attack them, but you are in range to cast like that one last spell, and it's like, fuck, I don't have enough mana. And then your problem was solved.
And you like have a clarity, and you're like, oh, all right, awesome, I'll just drink this, and you pop it, and then the range creep dinks you, and it's like, damn it! But like with the Enchanted Mango, it is an instant cast time. It's just one charge. It gives +1 health regen while it's in your inventory. Costs 125, and when you use it, it just instantly gives you that mana that you might need. AG, so do you start with it much in the offlane? It used to be an offlane's dream item. I guess that was like before the talent and stuff. But do you usually start with it on anybody?
The only time that I've started that I can think of right now as playing in an offlane position is when I play Nyx. Sometimes I'll start double mango, because then you just run around with like a bajillion HP regen, and you're having a good time, grand old time. The problem though is like, I don't know, that hero has like other problems in terms of being an offlane player. So like literally, I can't really think of another offlaner that's like in meta or one that I play a lot where like the mango fits into the build. Because like you said, the Iron Talon is just like for 90% of offlaners, you're just buying an Iron Talon and a set of tangos.
That's the build, yeah. But what do you think,
Flubb? It has more application, I think, than the offlane. That's what I was gonna say. And since I played like position 4, I play like a lot of position 1 in my spare time, and I play offlane for us. All 3 of those roles, I've bought mangoes on like different heroes. Like Tide, I guess, is another offlaner I used to buy a mango on sometimes.
But you don't anymore, right? Because of the Iron Talon.
Yeah, I don't know. You just like. Moon Meander said it best, like, or no, it was Swindles said it best, like, every few days I make the mistake of going to lane without an Iron Talon, and then I realize like I'm an idiot. Should have just gone to the jungle.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like in the off lane, it was a really big thing, and like it was really funny when it first came out. Man, I saw so many ogres going to the off lane with like 4 of them.
Yeah,
and like having 7 regen a second and being like, okay, well I can tank everything and cast all the spells that I ever want to, and you're just gonna take all this damage. But it's kind of funny that that's kind of gone away because you just have Iron Talon, you can just leave lane and get plenty of farm that way. I do think though that is a fun way to play. I don't necessarily think it's the best way to have mangoes. I actually think that this is my #1 item. Like if anyone knows me for anything, I think that this and Orb of Venom are like the things that I drool over constantly. Orb of Venom is crazy, but I won't get into that for another day. But the mango, I use it every single game on Earth Spirit. Every single game. That's what I always start with, and it's because, okay, it gives me an extra little bit of regen first for a melee support that has to be up front. And if I get hit, like, I mean, yeah, it's only 1 hit point a second, but it's 1 hit point a second.
Yeah,
it's
pretty
still
good.
something that can keep you there. If you have that and a set of tangos, you're probably not going to go back to lane for a while. And he has a lot of abilities that are cheap, but when they cast them all together, they kind of add up to be a lot. And it's kind of a great thing to have like no mana, especially when people like look at your character and they're like, oh, he has no mana, so he can't do this combo. And for some reason, if they don't look at you who don't have a mango, then you can kind of, see
surprise
them.
Motherfucker.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Get them out of position. You can do your combo real quick, pop it, and you'll have full mana again, and then you can like combo out and like another lane right after it. And that's why I like it. I like the ability to be able to have that regen for the beginning for melee supports. I think it's like crucial. You have to have it. The only person I would consider not having it is Kunkka, but that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah. Maybe when Ursinity comes on the show, we'll talk about that.
Yeah. That's Ursinity could talk hours about that guy. But the thing about Mango that's so crazy that a lot of people don't realize is that its potential to start out with it greatly increases a lot of heroes that were kind of lackluster in the beginning. Like you guys were saying, Sven, and that's something that's kind of grown in popularity. But I'll tell you guys a secret, that every single time I pick Pudge support, I buy these 3 items and these 3 items only. I buy a set of boots, a mango, and the courier. It's perfectly gives you all the uses up all your gold. What you want to do with Pudge in general is you're trying to get that hook to set up a kill, and if you have the boots, you can just run people down and auto attack them. And whenever I get into situations, I like to hook people into like crazy situations. There's like a couple cliffs that you can get on in the very beginning that are really good ways to get first bloods. Kind of guarantees that no one can ever get a bounty rune from those areas. So you're guaranteeing your team that bounty rune 100% of the time, and you have a way to run people down in the beginning and then hook them, and then even if that doesn't work, you have some type of regen by having that mango, and then if you hit your hook, you can immediately mango again and hook them right again, and they don't expect that damage output.
Yeah, they expect it to be on. Yeah, early on in the game, like, that's huge. It used to be like, much bigger, right? Because you would be like, there's no way that they're gonna have that unless you see the obvious clarity pop or something like that, or you see the bottle chug. So
yeah. And even then, you could turn around and you were a ranged hero, you could just dink them. And then there's like, okay, well, that combo's done now. So, but with Mango, it guarantees that they can't have a combo and that you have some type of regen if it does go a little bit sideways.
Yes, indeed. It's an item that's uncapped the game in a lot of ways. What are you going to say, AG?
I feel like, so at this point, since we have enough time to like look at it, I think you could, at least in my opinion, you can definitively make a statement that that the mango is pretty much exclusively for positions 4 and 1. Like, I don't ever see mids buying it, and I can't really think of a reason why you would buy it mid. There might be like a few scenarios that I'm not thinking of.
Few and
but
far
generally
between though,
speaking,
because you got the bottle,
yeah.
right?
And then like positions 5 usually are buying too many support items, particularly in pub matches. And then there's just like other, like they can benefit from clarities because they have so much downtime where they're not going after creeps, they're not necessarily harassing, they're just kind of like walking around. And it, you know, that's like, so, like don't sleep on the clarity too, because like obviously Mango is great for like in, you know, like fighting and having that instant mana, but like clarities are great for a roaming 5 where it's like you just used all your mana to push out the offlaner, but you want to gank mid, you just pop the clarity, by the time you're mid you got a lot of mana back. But like I think it's pretty much, and we already talked about the offlane, like at least in this meta I don't think you're going to see a Mango going to most offlaners. So like I think it's pretty much exclusively a position 4, and then like your occasional position 1s who have like generally highly spammable or like very low mana pools, but if they have that Mango, like can easily kill an offlaner.
For me, it's just a no shit button. Like with Jug, it's a spin. Oh shit! And you just hit it and you can spin away. Or with Sven,
Yeah.
you know, it's just
Well,
no
like,
shit. You have a stun now. You know what I mean?
There's heroes like Jug who before he gets his Aki, like generally has like some mana problems. Like you can do one spin in the very beginning and then like you have to wait, you know, 30 seconds or so to get another spin up, so like it's longer than your cooldown. But if you have that Mango, you're just like, the threat to that offlaner is so much greater than it otherwise would be if you didn't have that.
The potential threat that it adds is
and
huge,
it bridges the gap to his mana regen item, whether it be like the Battle Fury that you might get or the Aki that you might get or whatever.
Yeah,
and
it's great.
And then
for
he doesn't
that.
need it. Yeah.
And it's also great because, you know, you can it's something like, I agree with you wholeheartedly that it's for like 1 or 4, but I would also put on that list are offlaners who strictly have a support with them, or a support that goes with them over into the offlane. Yeah. Like I've ran it as Winter Wyvern before. So you do your Winter Blast a couple times, like whenever you guys hit level 3 up there, and then all of a sudden you have like a full bar to do 2 more Winter Blasts again. It's crazy the potential that it has just to like throw someone off course. And I think that that's what the item, its real strength is to kind of bait people into certain scenarios. Yeah, you can't get away with it all the time, but with most of the time you can have that that aggressiveness with that item. And people like Undying and Bristleback, I think those two are great offlaners. They're not as great anymore, but if they have a support that goes with them, they are someone that really benefits from Mango and can like have spammable spells that you need the mana instantly back for.
Yeah,
so exactly. Yeah, like highly aggressive offlanes where, see, like it's almost like in my mind I think of a 3 as like a solo offlaner. It's like then, but if you're gonna run a situation where you have an aggressive offlaner, like Tusk would be another one that would fit your example perfectly, or Nyx, Ogre, we kind of mentioned, like heroes in combinations that with a Mango just put so much aggression onto the offlane.
And that is really, really fascinating. I think I didn't think of how much it uncapped in lanes, and I don't know, mana was something that was very, very coveted because you had the salve in lane, you know, and there's been different kind of hit point regeneration methods added as well, but the Mango stands out as a really cool item, so I'm glad we talked about it. Just to give those details that I didn't give out, the hard details for anyone who might not know them. It restores 150 mana, has 1 charge, of course, and gives you 1 HP regen in lane, costing 125. So it's that cool little option to give you a little bit of regen and some extra mana when you might need it. Like I said, I don't look so deeply into it. It's kind of my oh shit button, but these guys have put a lot of thought into it. So get at them on Twitter, talk to them about all those interesting starting items you can get on different heroes. Flubb might have you beat on the Earth Spirit, though. But as for that, do you guys have anything else you want to add before I close the show out in terms of, I don't know, anything we've talked about? Speak now or forever hold your breath.
AG, you got anything to add, buddy?
Nope. I think we'll save it for another time.
All right. Well, AG, let's start with, where can people find you, my friend?
You can find me probably in one of 2 places. I'm on Twitter at AG47_Dota. And the other place that you can find me pretty regularly is I've been a pretty consistent member of like the casting crew for the Wednesday in-houses.
Awesome. Plug that. Those are Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern. Grouty runs the majority of that stuff, and that's at Grouty Dota is his Twitter. If you have any questions for him, sign up, etc. Also, check out our website. There's some information about the in-houses there at www.defenseofthepatients.com. Flubb, where can people find you, Grandmaster?
You're the Grandmaster. I'm just the crazy guy.
I'm the Grand Wazoo. It's a count title.
You're the teddy bear
Oh,
club.
my bad. I'm sorry.
But
It's
sorry.
I'm Teddy Bear Flubb now, AG? Is that what you said?
just some form of a soft, cuddly bear. That's what I think.
You're the enlightened Flubb. The guru.
Okay.
The guru
Cool.
Flubb.
Right.
But where can people find you? You got your Twitter all set up. You're in the Twitter sphere. Where can people find you, my friend?
All right, I'm at Flubb Dota, and also if there's another place that you guys want to try to get in contact with me, I play every Wednesday in the in-houses, and I highly suggest you guys stop by. There's people of all different types of skills and all different types of people. It's really fun to play and interact with people that don't really care about the situation, because you're just playing an in-house, you're having fun, you're meeting new people, making new friends, and you know, you might be able to play with any one of us, or even have AG cast your game. So
and get your ass kicked alongside me, maybe. That's always a great thing to have happen. But yeah, everyone come on by. We have plenty of room. Great way to meet new people in the Dota 2 community and in .p's community. So come on by, please. We'd love to have you. And as for me, you can find me at .p_wazoo, or just tweet at us at defense of the. Actually, it's at .p_show. Or .p_show. Sorry, really messed that one up. And I've been saying it for like 2 years now or whatever. But thank you guys so much for joining us. It's been fantastic. There's a lot that we didn't cover that we wanted to. We will talk about Flubb's competitive history one of these days in Han and Dota 2. We will discuss our success or failures in the Battle Cup, because Flubb hasn't yet played, so we're going to wait until he handles that, until we really get into it. And maybe AG will be on the show for that. Maybe we'll save that for a team building episode. You can expect that in a couple weeks. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. You make the show what it is. Remember, stay hard and stay classy.